Hello and welcome to Camera Basics. Today we are going to talk about four main things. Number one, we're going to talk about focus, how to adjust and maintain focus during any given service. Two, we're going to talk about zoom, how to keep a nice tight shot, how to get a nice wide shot, what those terms mean, and the context in which we use those functions here at the Rock Church. Number three, we're going to talk about lighting, how to adjust for lighting. We do have some dynamic lighting here at the Rock Church, and we're going to talk about the purpose behind that and how we use these cameras to adjust for lighting throughout a service. And number four, we're going to talk about pan, tilt, and tracking, how we use the camera and the tripod to pan, to tilt, and to track our subject throughout a sermon or throughout a service so that we keep the subject nice and centered in the frame the entire time. All of that and just a little bit more coming up right now. All right, welcome to Camera Basics. So the first thing we're going to get started with is focus. Now, there's a couple of things you need to know. Number one, focus is very, very important. Nobody wants to see a blurry face for an hour or even 2 minutes. Nobody wants to watch a blurry video. I think we can all imagine, have you ever seen one of those t-shirts that says focus on the chest and it's just super blurry on the font and nobody wants to look at it because it hurts your eyes? Yeah, we don't want to create a situation like this with our live stream. So how do we adjust focus? How do we maintain focus? With these cameras, this is the PXW-X70. It's a great camera. This is the camera of choice for the Rock Church. And with this camera, you can actually manually adjust the focus or let the autofocus motor take control. Autofocus is a pretty finicky thing, however. On one level, it works great in bright light, but in a darker setting, it's going to have a little bit of trouble and it's going to kind of wobble in and out. Because of the fact that our sanctuary does both have light areas and dark areas, which we'll talk about in a moment, we're going to recommend that you use the manual focus option. How do we get to that? Well, on the side of the camera to the left, just on the front side of the screen, this will flip out just like this. On the front side of that, you'll have a button and a rocker switch and a control ring. So the button says AF/MF. AF means autofocus, MF means manual focus. Just above that, you'll have a toggle switch that toggles between zoom and focus. That is the control option for this control ring. This control ring, when it's in zoom, you twist it and it'll zoom you in and out. And when it's in focus, you twist it and it'll shift your focus forward and backward. So in manual focus, how do we continue to maintain focus throughout a service? Well, you'll push this button, you'll switch it over to manual focus, and it'll show you an indicator on the screen that you have switched into that mode. And then you'll switch this toggle switch down into focus, and then you will adjust left and right your focus ring until your focus plane has reached its perfect sharpness on your subject. And then once you've got it there, you can just let it ride itself out. Majority of the time, that should be good enough to get you through a service. And that's how we manually adjust our focus. Now, moving on, let's talk about zoom. Zoom is very, very important. It's how we determine how large or small the subject is inside the frame. Now, if you're looking at this on YouTube, this right here is this right here. This is the frame, okay? That's where we're keeping all of the action. And we need to make sure that it's all contained within there, but not so tight like this. Now it's super tight. Now I'm boxed in. I feel like I'm in a cage. Now we're back to normal. We need to make sure that we're not super, super claustrophobic, but we also need to make sure that we're not constantly showing the entire room when it's not necessary. So with our zoom controls that we'll show here, we can make sure that that happens. Now, here on the camera, in the exact same area starting out, you'll notice that toggle switch that we just used for focus, if you push it up, you've got zoom controls with your control ring. That is wonderful. That's a super precise, dialed in way of controlling your focus, or your zoom rather. You've also got a couple of redundant backups. You've got a rocker switch here at the top on the handle. It's marked T and W. T means tight or zoomed in, and W means wide or zoomed out. And you push it forward to zoom in, and you push it backward to zoom out. Push it forward to zoom in tight, push it backwards to widen out your image. Now, on the dad side of the camera, like you're at Disneyland looking through the eyepiece, you've also got another one of these rocker switches. It's push forward for tight again, push backward for wide, but it's quite a bit bigger and a lot more refined. This one on the top, it's a little finicky and it's really more for quick and dirty movements. But your most refined control, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more later and how you would use it, is going to be with this control ring, okay? And that gets us pretty well through Zoom. It's important to keep your subject framed in. Keep it, for preaching, let's keep it in a bust. It's mid-abdomen with a little bit of room over the top of the head. That's the most comfortable, easy way of looking at somebody on film and listening to them talk. So let's keep them framed in. And it also avoids distractions. So if their shoe comes untied, or if their pants have a grass stain on the knee or something like that, then it's a whole lot easier to focus on them and not on the grass stain on their knee if you're not really looking at it and it's not even in the shot altogether. All right, moving on, we're going to talk about lighting. So lighting is very important. In our church, we have a very strategically designed lighting system. We have lights that are out over the audience, and we have lights that are on the platform or on the band or both. Those lights are put there for a purpose, and you'll notice they're quite a bit brighter on those areas than they are throughout the rest of the church. If you go into a classroom as a student and the area where the teacher is supposed to stand is in darkness, and the area where all the slackers sit in the back to go to sleep is super bright, you're naturally going to turn and look at the brighter spot of the room. So that principle in mind, we apply that here, and that's how we try to maintain people's attention toward the area where the ministry is taking place, the speaking ministry, the worship ministry, etc. So we have brighter lights on the platform and darker lights out over the audience. Now, what that does is it creates a bit of a problem with lighting in the room. If they're on the platform within a certain range, it's nice and bright. But if they step off to one side or the other too far, or they come down into the audience like Pentecostal preachers like to do, then it gets a little too dark. So how do we adjust the lighting to make sure they're nice and bright? Same spot on the camera. So you've got your zoom and your focus controls here. Just below them, you've got another scroll wheel, and working our way backwards, we have a menu button, an iris button, a gain button, and a shutter speed button. We're not going to go through all the functions of this camera because of time and because of simplicity, but we will go over two functions. We're going to go over the scroll wheel and the gain button. Now, to adjust your lighting for a specific service, you're going to want to push the gain button. With the screen open, when the gain button is pressed, you will notice that there is a little white box at the bottom in the center of your view screen. And it should have a number anywhere between -3 and +30, and then a little letters D and B next to it. That's your gain setting. Wherever that's at, you can adjust it up and down for brightness or darkness. So to adjust it up, you scroll the wheel up. To darken it, you bring the wheel down. And that's going to help you adjust for lighting. So as somebody moves from a darker spot to a lighter spot to a darker spot, it helps to have your hands free to be able to adjust the lighting so that you can see them nice and clear. Now, that gets us through focus, zoom, and lighting controls. And in just a moment, when we come right back, we're going to talk about pan, tilt, and tracking. This is how we control how much of the person we see in the frame and make sure that we keep them in the frame at all times. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We're going to talk about pan, tilt, and tracking with the camera. Now, here at the Rock Church, we have two cameras that we manually control for pan, tilt, and tracking, zoom, focus, etc. And here's what they are. This is one of the cameras here, but they have this general setup here that gives you an idea of what that setup looks like. It's on a video tripod that has pan, tilting, and control pan, tilting, and tracking options. So your pan is left and right. So you see how the camera spins to the left, spins to the right. That's called panning. Whenever you're tilting, that's when your camera goes up and your camera goes down. So that's tilt. So panning and tilting on this tripod are as simple as adjusting these tensioners that keep it nice and stiff but have fluid movement throughout. So to adjust your pan, you'll just twist this bolt, screw here, loosen it just enough so you've got tension, but that it's nice and fluid. And then the same for your tilt. Adjust this one on the front, and you've got tilt options so that you can adjust and track left and right, up and down. Then on the back side of the tripod, you'll notice the control arm. This is how you're going to pan and you're going to tilt. It just gives you a little bit more distant control so you're not touching all over the camera and making it jitter and look weird. Now, with a more advanced application, you'll notice, let me move this tripod just a little bit here. If somebody is moving both left, down, and forward, we know how to track them left, we know how to track them down, but how do we track them coming toward us? Good question, I'm glad you asked. On the side of the camera, you'll remember that we've got our zoom and our focus, and then we have this control ring. If we snap this up to zoom, then, and we keep our hand here tucked into the bottom of the camera, we'll have nice tight control with the camera, and we'll have really fine-tuned zoom controls with our thumb. So what we're going to teach and we're going to advocate that you do as operators for the Rock Church, keep one hand nice and firm on the control handle, one hand nice and firm on the bottom of the camera in the front, with your thumb near the autofocus button with the zoom focus control, and then you're going to just pan and you're going to tilt this way. This is going to help you with two things. It's going to give you lots of control over the camera, and it's going to give you at a thumb touch both zoom and focus manipulation so that you can keep not only your focus tight and sharp, but that you can also keep your subject inside the frame at all times, guaranteeing a great product on the outside for any of our online viewers. Now, last two things before we go. It's very important that we remember, number one, to have fun. This is a great experience. This is one of my most fond memories, one of my first memories of working in a live production environment for a church was at HYC in Arkansas 15 years ago, and I got to operate a camera rig similar to this, and I got to talk through a headset, and I got to pan the camera and adjust the focus, and it was probably one of my favorite memories working for an HYC. But I will say it's important to have fun, and it's okay to have fun. Don't let anybody make you feel like if you're having fun that you're doing something wrong. The second and easily most important thing to remember is that this is a form of worship. I've said it many times and I'll say it again. We have two sacrifices that we make primarily on a day-to-day basis. One is a sacrifice of praise, where we give our praise to God. We sacrifice that to Him, a sweet-smelling offering unto the Lord. And the second is a sacrifice as praise, where we give our talent and we give our heart and our passion and our ability to the kingdom of God in worship to Him. That's exactly what this is. So I implore you, and we in the church, we implore you to give your talent to the kingdom of God as worship, as praise, and never forget to have fun along the way. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if there's any more that you want to learn or need to know, ask any one of the staff here and they can point you in the right direction. Otherwise, happy hunting for more material to grow with, and happy shooting and happy camera operating. God bless and have a great day.